Hey, I'm Pops, and a new episode of Tulsa King. Are you excited? I have to be honest, this show's really gotten good, and I will admit that after the last episode, the big brawl with the biker gang, white supremacist type guys, right? I thought, it's gonna kind of be a dip. It's gonna be lull because we have the funeral. We'll have some. No, that is not the case. This is totally a mid-season climax, right? At 9 episodes, we were episode 5. This big everything comes together. I really don't want to talk about this without getting into spoilers. So if you're not interested in spoilers, you'll have to come back and tell me what you guys think. This was an extension of Dwight, but the world building in this episode, I think, is exactly what everybody wants. This is exactly the nature of what everybody is interested in. And it opens pretty much with a sequence of Dwight, getting to New York, showing up at this wake. His brother Joe, there's a very emotional ending to the last episode, and he's showing up in New York. Here he's reuniting with his sister. And I admit that it was nice to see everything going very awkward Dwight. Like he wants things to go well, but never things don't ever quite go exactly as in these circumstances, which it's Dwight. This is really a great extension of everything has consequences. You served your time. You did what you think is right. 25 years in prison, protecting the mob, and everything that you loved is moved on or resents you, or in this case, dies since the last time you spoke to him. So he has some good emotion moments with the widow, and he talks to his sister again outside. And here he looks on to his daughter, Tina, and she wants no part in any of this. What also happens is we cut back to Oklahoma, and you have sort of the intimidation bad cop situation between the biker gang and the corrupt police. So these two cops basically are in bed with them, and they have a lead on the tag of the vehicle. That was the big fight at the end of episode 4 with this is the whole nitrous ring, how they're making money on selling nitrous, who's got territory, and Dwight's group came in, of course. So this is how this gets set up. And of course, that's going to lead to Tyson, who basically has he pulled over, arrested. They got his phone. Everything kind of is a mess. The other thing that happens in this episode is Dwight is dealing with the mob not being happy that he's in New York. It didn't go through them, and what he has to do because the boss is actually in the hospital. So Dwight shows up at the hospital there, and of course. Well, this is the shot of Tyson in jail. And then, so Dwight has to go to the hospital to see the boss. Right here on the right, that is Tina, his daughter, and Dwight's trying to have a meal, right? Try to bread with them all, make some amends, that kind of thing. Nothing is going well for Dwight. The mob's mad, family's mad. Tina won't talk to him. The sister's trying to be okay. The widow is like, listen, you didn't have to throw your money into all this and pay for everything. We didn't ask you to do that. So it's fine. There's more emotional conflict at this point. The other thing that you have happen, which we never have to go too deep into it, and that is Manny. He is abandoned. He is now back to being Armand and working for Dwight, being muscle in that last fight scene. We cut back to the ranch where he works, and you have this sort of tit for tat back and forth with this other lady rancher. And basically, it comes to find out that her husband is part of that group. And this is just more conflict. Dwight and Vinny at the hospital. And really, to be honest, it doesn't totally make a lot of sense, but it definitely goes to show that, Dwight can't just walk right back into his life as it used to be. And there's more stuff back at the jail with Tyson not being able to get his phone call, go to the bathroom. There's just all this back and forth stuff, right? And then Dwight calls Stacy, which I think is, I think he calls her. Anyway, reality is though, she's basically like helping him and stuff. I think this was very interesting that we didn't see that she would have sort of, I want to call it corruption, but we didn't have this side of her, even though she likes Dwight, sleeping with Dwight, that kind of thing, that she would go that route. And I will admit that type of relationship in mafia shows is kind of unheard of, wouldn't happen in the real world. And it's interesting to see how it goes. So the gang grabs Bodie. He's the guy that runs some medicinal marijuana. They got him bagged, and they kind of have like an intimidation scene there that we're going to get to. And Dwight basically does a phone call and an answering machine. The family doesn't. He has to go because he has to go see the mob. He can't go there for the mass. And he reads this little, very emotional, well-written, heartstring type thing for Joe. And it's very, very good, very powerful. And again, this is what I expected. I expect a lot of heartstrings, not a lot of action, not a lot of intensity, just a lot of stress and anxiety. This is when the other lady rancher is telling Manny, and this is the intimidation of Bodie. So things continue to get, tense and tense and tense and tense. And then we end up so the last 10 to 15 minutes, then the show makes a hardcore dogleg left and becomes like a lot of conflict. Good for Dwight, bad for Dwight, chaos for Dwight. Everything is chaos. It's great. So we have Tyson out there. He's out of jail. Like, we don't know what happened. It's all a mess. The cops took his cash, took his phone. They made his life miserable. Bodie, who had been bagged, tortured, they take him to the bar because of Mitch. Now, Mitch is the bartender. And in one quick moment, and I didn't really want to play a lot of, this is the, get out of my joint, and like going to play tough with him. And in one moment, he has this, you're on Cherokee land, you effing blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it is total boss move. Bodie gets his cuffs off, Mitch puts his arm around him, and you're like, oh man, Mitch is just kicking butt and taking names because everybody thinks because he's an ex-con, he doesn't have his act worked out. This is Manny understanding he's in deep crap because he's been in the middle of this stuff with Dwight, and he's antagonized this, horrible biker gang situation. Okay, back to Dwight. He goes to see the daughter, puts pressure on the daughter, and you're kind of like, it's going to be sappy, it's going to be whatever. It makes a hardcore turn because it goes on for a few minutes. And she's talking about basically like, it's not about you just left me and Colin and abandoned the family and you went behind prison. A character named Nico, one of the other mafioso guys, basically his nickname is, quote, the package. And he was the one that would make visits to her and implying what had happened. So goes for retaliation, and no one's there at the hospital. No one's there. They've all moved on, which is totally unheard of, by the way. I don't really know who, and this is a weird glitch for me in mafioso lore, that the big boss, this is the big boss, even though he's this sick because he's so sick of the hospital, there's no way he would be left without protection, without some men, without some underlings, without some associates or someone being there. They've all left him there. And instead of this being more like a dialogue thing, it's just staying there, Dwight does what Dwight should not do and gets extremely emotional and then physical and grabs the boss by the throat and asks, did you know that Nico was basically taking advantage of my daughter? And in his response and his eyes, Dwight knows he's telling the truth. He didn't know. It's just Nico. And then Dwight goes and finds, the boss had said, they're at the club or whatever. So they're playing their thing. By the way, this is the great cinematography. This is what we need to see in film. This shot like this, why does it exist? It exists in a minute because Dwight busts in and then just attacks Nico. And when I say attacks, I mean quite literally slams his face onto that fryer, burning his face, and then stomping him and killing him. Like, this dude did this to my daughter. You guys are awful for allowing this to happen. No, we don't do that. And yes, there's a code. And yes, you're made and you can't touch someone, but you're also not allowed to touch someone's daughter. Oh my gosh. This episode had something in every angle, creating a ton of chaos. Like I said, for Dwight, against Dwight. It was, I love this episode. This was by far the best episode. Gave me the best hope for this series since episode 1. It moved all of these other little tokens and pieces that are on the board, moving them around, which is exactly what we want, right? The boss is nearly dead. Now the underboss could come in power. And who's this conflict with this guy? What's Manny going to do? He's caught up now and all this. He didn't really want to be a part of this. He's got sucked up. Tyson and his dad's been like, no, you're going to end up in a big mess. Now you got roughed up by these white cops that are corrupted by the biker gang conflict. They're not going to let this go. Dwight and Tina. And it's just, yes. That's what I want. I want good TV. This was a good move to bring me what I want and get us further where we want to go. So anyway, I'm tell me what you think, guys. Some of you are watching this. I love your comments and feedback. What else did I miss? I can't cover everything. This episode had a lot in it. Jam-packed. Good stuff. Chill with me.
All I do is chill.